So here we are, and spawning up in the top left-hand position, representing Alien Invasion. It is the pink... No, it's not. I'm in the wrong side. Down in the bottom right-hand position, representing Alien Invasion, it is the pink Zerg player, Hanfi. And his opponent, in the top left of Heavy Rain, representing Maus, Hasuobs. Currently, the score is 0-0, being game 1 of a best of 3. To give you a bit of background how these two got here into the semi-final, Hasuobs took out Nomi in the round of 16, and Zoke in the quarter-final. Hanfi, on the other hand, he managed to take out his teammate CPU in the round of 16, and Lambo King in the quarter-finals. So, some cool stuff done by both of these two players. It'll be interesting to see how they fare up against each other. I've only cast Hasuobs in the quarter-final. I haven't cast any of Hanfi yet today, so I'm not quite sure how Hasuobs is doing in his ZVP currently, but we're going to find out. Looks like he's opting for probably a Nexus first opening now, as we can see that he isn't yet doing anything else, just keeping a quick little look to see whether or not there's going to be a hatch first play. Now just coming to check up into the main base to confirm that yes, there's a spawning pool and it wasn't super early. Nexus should start any second. There we go, he had enough minerals for it. And he's probably going to come back down and try and block this natural base, and is going to be easily able to do so. Pylon goes down, and this is incredibly frustrating for Hanfi. Never want to get that block down because it's just a nightmare to deal with. So, need to keep a close eye on... Okay, the pylon is allowed to finish, so that's a bit more of a commitment to this, but it's going to take a lot longer to actually take it out, which is really annoying. Back at home, Hasuobs has got his expansion on its way, scouted now by Hanfi. Gateway and a gas being taken as well up in the main base. The advantage of this, and it is a big advantage of blocking off this natural base, is that because Hasuobs went for that Nexus first opening, he's guaranteeing himself a long period of time, about 74-ish seconds, where he's going to have a natural base and Hanfi won't. And as a Protoss player, having 74 seconds where you're a base up on your opponent is fantastic. The only trouble is there are now Zerglings leaping and bounding and full of joy in a murderous rampage ready to come over and start killing probes. So what we need to see is some form of defensive unit quickly. That's why Zealot is getting chrono boosted out. Hanfi attempting now to deal with his blockade is natural by taking his third exceptionally fast. It's pretty much a double expansion right now actually. Only a small amount between the two of them. This came down anyway at about the 4-minute mark, which up against the Nexus first, to be honest, isn't crazy. It's completely fine getting an expansion around that time, because anything about 350 to 420 is pretty much standard against a Forge Fast Expander or Nexus first build. Got Warp Gate tech coming down as well at the moment from Hasuobs. Kind of boosting out more probes at the moment though, really economy focused. Meanwhile, Hanfi, he's struggling a bit more with his economy because he doesn't yet have that natural down. It's about to finish. Got 2 queens though, so can be injecting well. Starts up a 3rd queen at the natural, ready to go over towards his 3rd base. Needs those injects to be hitting on the mark, every mark, so he can keep up in production. Hasuobs is on 2 gases, but not showing any of his tech quite yet. No sign of anything coming down for the moment. He's already up to 200 gas, so he's got plenty to spare, and there we go. Down goes the robotics facility. So it's going to be Colossus tech, most likely coming down from Hasuobs relatively fast now. Could also be an Immortal Sentry all-in, so I did actually kind of completely jump over the fact that it could be a very aggressive 2-base all-in. But Immortal Sentry play has got a lot of popularity lately with Protoss players up against Zerg, because it's still just so effective if it's pulled out and used precisely. It'll be interesting to see if it stays in the meta and stays a firm favourite build, especially since Hydralisks have had that small buff in terms of their attack speed. Makes them just even better at dealing with Protoss compositions that don't involve splash damage. The robotics facility though has been scouted. The fact that a sentry's out, or 1 sentry's out, isn't going to be a big giveaway. 1 sentry doesn't make you exactly go, oh my god, it's an Immortal Sentry all in. If you'd seen an Immortal pop out in like 4 or 5 sentries, yeah, that's a giveaway. But 1 sentry is pretty normal. Queen's now starting to do their work on this rock tower. Want to block off one of the paths in towards the third base, buying a bit more time if the push comes through. Overlord placed right out to the left to see any attempted pylons coming down nice and close there. And also it'd be good to see any, this Overlord as well, sees any pylons trying to come down the side this way. So generally, just good moves. Of course, you can put it here, because these rocks would take too long to take down in Immortal Sentry builds. 10 more Lings coming out. We've got the second Immortal coming through, so this is looking quite... Well, I was going to say it's looking quite likely to be some kind of Immortal Sentry play. But then we've got a Forge. So this is more likely a faked Immortal Sentry play going into a third base, because an attack upgrade won't be done in time for this push. It's not even started yet, so... Should be seeing an expansion coming down. I'd be quite surprised if we didn't. There's a War Prism coming out though, so may poke and prod a bit. May go for some Immortal drop play. Heavy Rain's a great map to do it on because you can harass up into the main and then bounce down to the third nice and easy. Hasuobs though is going to have to contend with a Ling at his third base if he doesn't continue on with this, but he's adding in a few more gates now. Going up to 6-7 gateways, which is quite a decent number actually at this stage. The Immortal drop is going to be coming through, but this still should be an expansion at some point. One lone Ling gets taken down, heading over towards the third base now. Another one will die. The final one scouting is also going to get taken out. The rest have retreated away. We've got 6 spines coming down now. The 1-1 melee upgrades coming through too. And the spines are a really interesting choice because generally the spines will come down for one of 2 reasons. The first reason would be if you're panicked that a massive push is going to be coming. But actually, seeing the Immortal drop play, seeing the Immortals loaded up in the War Prism generally say no, it's not going to be an Immortal Sentry build. The other reason you get out of spines is if you're going for a build that is vulnerable to a head-up engagement early on, such as a heavy Mutalisk play, or some kind of Swarm Host play where you need actually the static defense to help you hold initially. But with the +1 melee attack coming down, both of those seem quite unlikely. Ling Hydra is still going to be the most likely build at the moment, especially the Hydra Den coming through, and that is going to be very effective up against the composition that Hasuobs is going for at the moment. Until he gets some splash. If he gets down some High Templar, or gets down a couple of Colossus, that's where a significantly higher amount of damage can be done very fast. A couple of Creep Tumors getting picked off now by this Immortal, or the 2 Immortals, always nice to be done there. More probably going to get taken out still, just forcing back that creep spread. But a big wave of Lings going to come and sneak in towards the third base. There are quite a few sentries here, but these Lings are about to be 1-1. Hasuobs though on the ball backs away into a more easily defended position where he can force field off effectively. A lot more Creep Tumors getting ready to be made. Unfortunately there's units in the way, so these poor queens, so desperate to spread the creep, not going to be able to do so. Pushing back this creep spread also delays what the Hydras can do, because the Hydralisks are getting group spines first as opposed to the range, as opposed to the movement speed upgrade, and that means they need creep to get anywhere in any sort of reasonable time. Spire also coming down, so we're going to get probably either a big Muta switch, or alternatively we'll see a decent number of Corruptors come out should there be any Colossi. But for the moment, just a couple of force fields trying to protect these rocks. Hasuobs does want his opponent pushing through, but he's out of position as a big Ling Rumbai comes up in towards the third base. If this wraps around the Nexus, almost definitely dead. Units frantically trying to get back into place, but they're just being held back by a small sacrificial group of Lings. The Nexus does finish, but it's gonna fall. Great pick off there by Hanfi, and with that, Hasuobs now down soon 2 bases and loses a lot of his early investment. A couple of Lings going to pay the price, but a handful of Zerglings 13 minutes into the game in exchange for a Nexus is huge. Great position for Hanfi at the moment. Hasuobs is about to finish up his Robotics Bay though, and with that he's going to be able to start Colossus production. But this is late Colossi. There's already so many spines, so many Hydras and Lings that unless there's a decent number of Colossus come through anytime soon, it's not too scary. There's going to be plenty of time to get out Vipers, plenty of times to get out Corruptors in order to deal with them. So 2 Hallucinated Phoenix come through, scout the fact that there's a Spire there. Muscular Augments, Hydra Speed coming through, but Hasuobs pushing from the left flank. He's got a drop of Zealots ready to go into the main too. Going to try and tax Hanfi's multitasking. Hanfi staying back, wants to allow Hasobs to push forward so he can get the best concave. Some good force fields coming through though, and they're actually blocking out a lot of the Hydralisks. In the main, a massive warp in of Zealots is just decimating the drone count. A few more drones at the third get picked off, 52 workers apiece. The lair could actually be in trouble here. There are so many Zealots. Four's just going to back away. And there are some units coming back, but this exposes the third, so Hanfi doesn't want to actually commit pulling everything back yet. These Zealots getting a good amount of work done on the lair. It's going to be fairly close. The Hydra's going to try and focus it as quickly as possible, but the lair isn't going to fall. A transfuse went down, saving it. So close. If Hasselhobbs had got that, it would have really put Hanfi back in the Stone Age in terms of trying to tech up into Hive anytime soon. The first Colossus is now in production. It's about to finish up. We've got the double Stargate in case of Mutalisk production. But that's not what's coming. It's Corruptors ready to deal with those Colossi. The Lings are 1-1, +1 missile attack also done for these Hydras, so it's 1-1-1 upgrades for Hanfi, whereas over on Hasselhobb's sides, it's currently 2-1 with the +3 attack on its way through. Mutas are out on the field. I missed those earlier, so sorry, there were a few mutas made, but this isn't a big commitment to them. It's just a handful to come and harass and get a little bit of probe damage done. They are going to be in some trouble. The double Stargate has now been seen. A lot of these Mutalisks are now getting taken out. Pretty much all of them do die, only 4 managing to escape. But the third Nexus, yet again, besieged by a huge number of Hydras and also all of these Zerglings. The Zerglings get a complete wraparound. The Zealots desperately trying to stop it. These Hydras could do with focusing the Nexus, but it falls regardless. Hanfi keeping his opponent really low on economy, but a Zealot drop in the main base of Hanfi takes out the lair. The macro hatch is also being targeted. This is frustrating. A few Mutalisks coming out, plus some Hydras defensively there, but Hasselhobbs, he's pushing down the middle. He wants that third base. Hanfi needs to amass an army very quickly to stop this. If Hanfi holds this game, it's still incredibly level. But Hasselhobbs, for the moment, is up in army supply. Plus that Colossus means the Hydra Ling composition not perfect against this. Drones being prepared to be pulled. Still, both of these two players are very, very close. Hanfi's taken a ninja base up to the top right. One that Hasselhobbs is exceptionally unlikely to scout very soon. More Mutalisks coming through. No Phoenix production as of yet. I think for the most part Hasselhobbs feeling quite confident that he stopped his opponent's Mutas before they became a threat. Hanfi sacrificing up his third base though, going to pull back the spines. He's got his fourth still there and instead going on the offensive. Not sure how much of a great move this is. There's no mothership core with the army though, so there's no option for a mass recall. And as a result, Hasselhobbs being forced to retreat. Mutas in the main are dealing a ton of damage. A lot of probes going down, only 41 remain. But Hasselhobbs is already pretty much mined out in the main, so he's still going to be oversaturated. The Mutalisks chasing down a couple more Stalkers. There's in total 15 Mutas here, but Phoenix production has begun, and that will probably spell the end to much more Muta harassment. So, let's look at the facts. Hasselhobbs is probably quite happy. He's taken down his opponent's third. Yes, he knows there's a fourth, but he's like, you know what, I'm still a base up, and I've taken out his main. But he doesn't know about this base at the top right, that's adding a bonus income for Hanfi that Hasselhobbs can't account for at the moment. The natural should now survive. The Zergling is able to take out those Zealots. But the harassment from both players has been fantastic. Hasselhobbs 33 workers killed, Hanfi 25. So losses are significant on both sides. We're approaching the 20-minute mark of game number 1. Phoenix production really ramping up, a fleet beacon also coming through. Hasselhobbs though starting to get very low on minerals. His natural base pretty much mined out. His main base is basically mined out too. So he needs to secure up a third or win this game damn soon. Otherwise he's going to be in a heap of problems. Hanfi is behind in tech, but he's retaking up his main and he's got this base to the top right. Couple of Corruptors in with these Mutas just to deter the Phoenix for a bit further. Of course, Corruptors outrange Phoenix and they're also armoured, so they can take a much higher beating from the Phoenix than the Mutalisks can. Hasselhobbs hallucinating up a couple of Colossi there, pushing forward across the left hand side of the map. There's a small strike force prepared on the right of Hasselhobbs, which could move in, but instead coming back into a defensive position, ready to try and save the fourth and probably natural base. Hasselhoff, though, is also on the retreat. He doesn't want to overcommit to this. He's killed off a good number of stuff. He's killed off his opponent's Spire, but an Infestation Pit is now coming down as well. 21 minutes into the game, Hasselhoff has yet been able to secure up what can really be considered a decent third base. He's had it up for a couple of seconds, but nothing that's been incredibly important for him. More Phoenix are coming out. And with this many Phoenix, Mutalisks aren't going to be able to achieve much. The worker count currently 35 to 54, and Hasselhoff has no idea about this base to the top right, and that's what's really allowing Hanfi to do so much. Having that additional base means that he's still on 4 bases, whereas Hasselhoff has been on 2 this entire game so far. Not too much else to say currently. Both players just attempting to amass an army. Hasselhoff needs this third. If Hanfi found a way to take that out again, it would probably be all over. Because Hasselhoff just wouldn't have the economy to keep it going. He's very low at minerals on his natural base. His main is pretty much completely dry. Even his main Vespian guys is starting to get a little low. Hanfi, with 13 Corruptors coming out though, is starting to get up a decent composition, and this is bad for Hanfi. Hasselhoff has discovered the base to the top right, but it's also meaning that Hasselhoff's army is now in a pretty rough spot, especially since Hanfi just running straight for the Nexus. He's going, do you know what, bro? Take that top right base, I'll take your third. Let's see who struggles for resources more. And it's gonna be Hasselhoff, because he's now down to only his natural base mining, and look at how low that is. A couple of 100 minerals remain at most. The Phoenix are engaging up against the Corruptors. They don't fare too well against them. Hanfi has resecured up his third, so that means he's again on 4 hatches, even after losing that one in the top right. But Hasselhoff is on 3 bases, and while he's at around equal supply with Hanfi, he's about to run out of resources completely. He's got like 200 resources there and like 400-ish at his natural of minerals. Really low. He's probably got 700 minerals total left he can mine if he doesn't take this third base. He's going to go for some long-range mining, but that's exceptionally inefficient. Contaminate coming down on the robotics facility. And the Phoenix yet again moving in here. More Corruptors coming out. Drones are going to start dying, but Hanfi is still up in the worker camp. Could have done with the gases though. That's what he didn't really want to lose. But he's actually got a decent amount of gas, so I take that back. Corruptors though getting back into a defensive spot. A few more Phoenix are getting taken down, and there's also the Hydralisks there. And basically, Hasselhoff has to be so ridiculously careful whenever he engages, because he doesn't have the economy to keep losing units. The Mutas just engage head up there, so they're going to have a very bad trade. A lot of gas taken out of Hanfi's army. But a couple more Phoenix died too. The third base yet again getting retaken by Hasselhoff. This is, I think, now his 4th attempt to secure up that base in 25.5 minutes. Hanfi, in army supplies, pretty much level slightly up. The Corruptors, though, if they engage well on those Colossi, it could be all over for Hasselhoff. There's just so many Corruptors. In they go. The Phoenix are there as well. The Mutalisk going straight forward. One hallucinated Colossus dies. The Force Fields are very good, boxing up a lot of Hanfi's army, meaning that Colossus gets maximum damage down. Both Colossi full, though. The Corruptors now coming out, but aside from dealing with the Phoenix, they're pretty much dead weight. This army needs reinforcing with more Hydras and more Roaches. There's more Roaches coming, but the Hydra Den was killed earlier, and it appears it hasn't yet been remade. That means that Hanfi can't get more Hydralisks out, and they'd be very effective up against this Stalker Immortal composition. Hasselhoff's probably in his happiest position in a while. Now he's got that third mining. Means he's no longer scraping by on the absolute minimum mineral and gas income. Has a bit of leeway, but Hanfi, he's still got 2 mining bases. His natural's even got a few more resources there too. The Corruptors attempting to find any Phoenix that may stray too far. Hanfi though, waiting, gonna start moving up. There's no Corruptors, no Colossi have been remade. 2 have been hallucinated, but I think they were actually seen to be hallucinated. The Stalkers trying to go in, a couple of Corruptions coming down, a few Roaches trying to arch around the back, but these Force Fields are good at the moment, allowing the Immortals to get good damage down. Huge lifts from the Phoenix, cut out a lot of this army, but the Roaches from behind will find one of the Immortals, unable to target it down in time, and this is an overwhelmingly huge victory for Hasselhoff. He manages to crush Hanfi there, who's now down to just 67 supply, and Hanfi, being very aggressive, may have just cost himself the game. Hasselhoff has got a huge amount of momentum now. He's pushing forward with it. And there's nothing that Hanfi can really do to stop it. He's getting 7 roaches out, but his mineral count is incredibly low. Drone's now dying. And while the third base of Hasselhoff is again getting rampaged, there's a couple of units there, and the Nexus won't fall. Hasselhoff, in my opinion, would have been way better continuing on pushing, because even if he loses his base, his army supply is nearly triple that of Hanfi's. And Hanfi knows it. He GG's out, and game number 1, after just shy of 30 minutes, goes to Hasselhoff.